Every message to my website goes through Stella, my AI chatbot that handles customer service automatically. As a solo founder, I can't be available at all times to respond to every question the moment it comes in. Between client work, building systems, and managing operations, I used to constantly context switch to check messages. That's why I built Stella. She handles initial screening, answers common questions, and qualifies serious prospects through conversation. The system runs 24/7 with minimal maintenance from me. This is Stella, my customer service automation system. This case study is for you if you get inquiries outside of business hours and watch leads go cold while you sleep. You're tired of answering the same questions about your pricing, process, or services over and over. You've wasted time on discovery calls with people who weren't serious, didn't have a budget, or weren't a good fit. You want leads qualified instantly through natural conversation without frustrating customers with forms. If any of these sound familiar, you'll want to see how Stella handles everything through conversation and not forms. Before Stella, my website had a simple contact form. Someone filled it out, hit send, and then waited. I wasn't able to be consistent with response times, as sometimes I'd reply within an hour. Other times it would take half a day before I'd notice messages between work. Usually by then, people had already moved on to the next agency on their list. But even when I was able to respond quickly, I was drowning in the same questions. What's your pricing? Do you work with small businesses? What platforms do you use? How long does a project take? All valid questions, but answering them individually, one by one, multiple times per day, was like running on a treadmill and not moving forward. Then there was the qualification problem. I'd schedule a discovery call, spend 30 minutes learning about their needs, only to find out that they wanted a $500 chatbot when my minimum starts at $3,000. Or they needed a project done in 2 weeks when my realistic timeline was 6. There was no way to tell who was serious from a contact form message. I'm interested in automation could mean I have a budget and a specific problem, or I'm just exploring what's out there. As a result, I wasted a lot of time on unqualified calls, missed opportunities from slow responses, and drained mental energy from checking my inbox constantly instead of focusing on actual client work. I needed a system that could screen inquiries, answer the basics, and only surface qualified prospects to me directly. That's where Stella comes in. Every message that hits my website triggers a back-end workflow that figures out what people actually want. When someone interacts with a chatbot on my website, their message hits a webhook that sends it to N8N, my workflow automation platform. The system splits into 2 main workflows: FAQ and routing, where this handles initial conversation and intent classification, and the lead interview, where this qualifies serious prospects through natural conversation. Let's walk through both. The first step is data validation. The system checks if all required fields are present, sanitizes input to prevent injection attacks, and validates email and phone number formats. This is basic security hygiene that prevents the workflow from breaking on malformed data. Next comes the intent classifier using GPT-4 with a carefully tuned system prompt. Getting this classification accurate was the trickiest part. Early versions were either too aggressive or too passive due to vagueness in the prompt. The distinction I eventually landed on was, if a question like "how much do you charge" is asked, it's registered as an FAQ, where they're seen to be doing research. If a statement like "I need a chatbot for my business" is given, it's classified as service interest, where they've stated a specific need. The classifier analyzes both the message content and conversation history, then returns a JSON object with a classification and confidence score. A switch node routes the workflow based on that classification into 3 possible paths. The FAQ path is activated when someone asks questions like "what services do you offer" or "how much does this cost?" Stella's response agent has detailed knowledge about my services built into the system prompt. This includes what I build, price ranges, project timelines, technical stack, and ideal client profiles. She pulls from that knowledge base to generate relevant answers and responds immediately. This leads to no more waiting for me to type the same response 100 times. The small talk path is activated when someone gives casual comments such as "hey, just browsing," or "tell me about your company." Stella engages naturally, explains what RA Works does, and guides them towards understanding if we're a good fit. Not pushy, just informative with a friendly personality I've defined in the prompt. The service interest path is where everything gets strategic. When someone says something like, I need help automating my workflow, or I want to hire you for a project, that triggers the qualification sequence. This is where the second workflow takes over. Here's where Stella is different from typical chatbots. Instead of sending people to fill out a form, she qualifies them through natural conversation. The system uses a slot filling approach with GPT-4. As the conversation progresses, Stella extracts information and fills in 8 required fields. What they're interested in, the project type, whether business or personal, the main goal that they're trying to achieve, their ideal timeline, their budget range, who makes the decision, their name, and finally their email. The AI presents one question at a time naturally, based on what's still missing. This is done in a way where it doesn't feel like a form, but more like a conversation. For example, if someone says, I need a chatbot for my law firm and we're looking to launch in the next month and have about a $20,000 budget, the AI extracts multiple data points from that single message. Once all 8 fields are filled, the system calculates a lead score from 0 to 100 based on 4 factors. Budget contributes 0 to 40 points depending on their range. Timeline contributes 0 to 25 points, where sooner is marked as higher. Decision maker contributes 0 to 20 points, where a sole decision maker scores highest. And problem detail contributes 0 to 15 points, where the more specific they are, the better. Based on the total score, leads get classified into 3 different tiers. Premium leads of 65 points or more, where there's a high budget, urgent timeline, and a clear decision maker. These get flagged for immediate follow-up. Standard leads of 40 to 64 points, meaning they're a good fit but maybe have a longer timeline or shared decision-making process, but still qualifies. And nurture leads of under 40 points or 0 budget, meaning that they're not ready now. These leads get added to a nurture sequence for future follow-up. Every qualified lead logs to my database and sends me a phone notification with their details and recommended action. The entire flow runs automatically. Prospects get instant responses through natural conversation, and I only see notifications about people who are already pre-qualified. Now, what I don't usually show in demos is Stella's classification isn't always perfect. Sometimes someone would ask a question that sounds like an FAQ when they're actually testing whether or not I know my stuff before continuing. The system mistakenly routes them to FAQ when they should have gone to qualification. Other times, someone would express a vague interest like, I might need automation someday, and the classifier treats this as service interest when it should be small talk. Edge cases like this happen sometimes. For maintenance, I review conversation logs every week. When I spot a misclassification, I add that example to the system prompt as a reference case. If someone says X, classify it as Y because of Z. When I see questions Stella answers poorly, I expand her knowledge base with better explanations or more context. The maintenance takes about 20 to 30 minutes per week. Not zero effort, but way less than manually screening every question myself. The trade-off is well worth it. Instant responses 24/7 in exchange for weekly tune-ups. Before Stella, my average response time was about 6 to 8 hours. After Stella, it's under 30 seconds. Prospects get instant answers anytime they reach out. No more waiting and no more wondering if their message got lost. My discovery call quality has also completely changed. I used to schedule calls with anyone who expressed interest, then find out mid-conversation that they weren't a good fit. Now I have complete information before I ever reach out. Budget, timeline, project scope, decision authority, all captured through natural conversation. My time spent on customer service dropped around 75%. Time saved from not answering repeat questions, filtering out tire kickers, and compulsively checking my inbox. Stella handles the screening, and I handle the closing. A partnership with AI that actually works. Here's the bigger picture. Every service provider faces the same problems. You can't scale yourself, you can't be available 24/7, you can't answer the same question over and over without going crazy. But most chatbots are terrible. They frustrate people, miss context, and damage brands by feeling robotic. Stella shows a different approach, to qualify through conversation and not forms. To extract information naturally without making people fill out forms. And to use AI to understand intent and not just pattern match keywords. This pattern would work for any service business with common questions and clear qualification criteria. Whether you're a consultant, agency, freelancer, or anyone who needs to filter serious prospects from casual browsers. AI doesn't replace your sales process, it just filters who enters it. You can try Stella yourself right now. Go to raworks.net, interact with her, and see how she handles your questions. Ask her about pricing or my process. Express interest in a project and watch how she qualifies you through conversation and not forms. Then, if you want a similar system for your own business, we can chat about what qualification criteria matters for your leads, what questions you're tired of answering manually, how to make AI feel conversational and not form-based, and what a realistic implementation would look like for your specific business. Stella took about 2 weeks to build, with most of the time spent tuning classification accuracy and conversation flow. Now it runs with minimum oversight. If you're losing leads to slow responses or wasting time on unqualified calls, let's build you your own version. Try Stella first at raworks.net, then let's see how we can make your business work smarter, not harder.